Funded Today Nation, welcome back to the Funded Today podcast. We're back at you today with another good one that includes a very impressive guest who is also literally live on Kickstarter right now. And last time we gave you a free download access to our beautifully designed, newly minted A through Z Ultimate Crowdfunding Pre-Launch Checklist. So definitely be sure to download that if you've not done so already and put that baby to work for you right away. Now let's get on with today's episode.
The Funded Today podcast is brought to you by fundedtoday.com. Funded Today is a premier marketing and video agency. From startups to crowdfunding to Amazon and beyond, Funded Today has helped their clients generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. If you'd like help launching or growing your business, visit www.fundedtoday.com to speak with one of their experts.
Welcome back to Get Funded Today, the Funded Today podcast. I am Zach Smith.
And I'm Thomas Alvord.
And again, I just wanted to briefly remind you to download the Ultimate Crowdfunding Success Guide at fundedtoday.com/guide, along with our Ultimate Crowdfunding Pre-Launch Checklist. There are literally no better resources out there than these two guys when it comes to planning and orchestrating your product launch, start to finish, A to Z. We know you're going to love them. And if you're like any of our now thousands of listeners who are already using them and putting them to use, they might just prove to be the difference maker from making no money on your next launch to instead raising hundreds of thousands and becoming the next big thing, which just so happens to be our guest today. And boy, is this one going to be a good one. The topic, Dale Backus, the chosen one of Kickstarter and the Ohsnap story. Hey, Dale, welcome to the show today.
Hey, how you doing, Zach?
Doing really well. So excited to have you. So before we get started into this thing, I've got to get to the bottom of this, the chosen one of Kickstarter title. I love it. And the origin story is pretty funny. So it only happened a few days ago, right? Can you tell me a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, it's funny. As you just said, my name's Dale Backus. And, we launched the Ohsnap Kickstarter campaign 2+ weeks ago. And then about a week ago or so, maybe a little less, a person on our Kickstarter commented. He was asking, is Dale Backus is your real name? And I was like, yeah. And because apparently no one really noticed this until he pointed it out. But, my name is Dale Backus for Kickstarter. It's sort of a great name to have for crowdfunding. And then he even went as far as say Dale could also you could slur that and it sounds like Vale. So it's Dale Backus. And so it's just no one on our team, no one that funded today, no one realized that, no one made that connection until this guy brought it up. So pretty funny.
Man, I love that. I can't get it out of my head now.
It's the subliminal messaging. That's why he's doing so well on Kickstarter.
That's got to be it. Well, Dale, I want to back up for just a second. You have a pretty impressive story, and I think it kind of deserves everybody to understand a little bit more where you're coming from. So before we jump into the episode today, I just want to give a little bit of a biographical account of your entrepreneurial life so far. And I'm just going to kind of read a little bit about what we have on you, if that's okay. And then we'll jump into things.
Absolutely.
All right. Dale Backus is a serial inventor and entrepreneur, starting his first company, 5 Point Productions, in a basement at age 21 with his high school friend and business partner. Shortly into that endeavor, he stumbled across the Doritos Crash the Super Bowl video competition where thousands of amateur videographers would submit homemade ads for the ultimate opportunity, airing an ad on the Super Bowl. Their ad, Live the Flavor, was chosen as a top 5 finalist and ultimately chosen as the grand prize winner and aired in the 2007 Super Bowl. This propelled the fledgling basement startup into the limelight, quickly gaining regional notoriety and the ability to compete for larger contracts. From here, Dale and company were required to rapidly innovate their production quality capability through the invention of various devices. One of these devices was a high-definition LCD monitor that Dell was able to build despite any formal engineering training. At the same time, no such device of equivalent capability had existed, so they decided to offer it to others in the filmmaking community for sale. This led to the formation of their second business that Dell founded, Small HD. Over the next 10 years, Small HD grew to become a world-leading brand in on-camera display technology and can be commonly found on nearly every cinema film set in the world today. Dell also produced and competed in the 2010 Crash the Super Bowl contest, again winning, and this time netting $600,000, which was used to fund this new company, Small HD. In 2014, Small HD was sold to Vitek, a London-based public holding company, for $4.7 million in cash and an aggressive earnout package. Since then, Dale has started several other businesses that are all in various stages of development. Currently, Ohsnap Inc. is running a highly successful Kickstarter campaign with nearly $300,000 raised at the time of this recording. Ohsnap is a game-changing take on the wildly popular phone grip stand mount phenomenon. Wow, that is quite the story, Dale. 2 wins for the Doritos Super Bowl contest, and then the second one, a $600,000 prize. You've got an exit story. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can unpack here. Tell me a little bit more about where you want to go with this thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, as you said, really what I am more than anything else is an inventor. It's been the common thread through sort of my entire, adult life and my career for certain. And so I started these other businesses, sold the one 5 years ago, and I've just been working at that company now since then, still running it on a day-to-day basis and still leading the product team and everything, which is still my primary role at that company, is to invent products. I just have a much larger team now that actually executes, the actual creation of the product, right? But on the side, I'm always, for some reason, I just have a very active idea center in my brain where I look at the world a certain way, and I just make connections with problems and solutions a lot. I have a huge document of just various ideas and invention ideas and things like that. And so about a couple of years ago, I was actually at CES, and the first thing I saw was, there's this company called Love Handle, right? And they make this phone grip. It's like an elastic band. And I went over to see this guy's booth. I think he was in Eureka Park or something. And I went over there and I said, hey man, this thing's really cool. And he had like advertising all around the convention center and everything. So I was just really impressed by this whole thing. I was like, such a simple device, And then I asked him, I was like, how many of these have you sold so far? How long have you been around? And he's like, oh, I sold about 1 million of them. And I was like, what? And so you just kind of do some quick math in your head, and you're like, wow, this is just really, really crazy. And then literally the next day, I got a pop socket as some promotional swag from some other company. I think it was like Amazon or something. I can't remember. And I put this pop socket on my phone, and I was like, oh, okay, this thing it's great. I totally get it. I see the need. I totally understand why this product exists. But immediately when I put it on my pocket, I was just like, okay, now I don't want it anymore. And I just ripped it off and threw it away immediately. And ever since then, it was just sort of stuck in my brain that there's, okay, this seems like, one of those areas where it's a relatively new problem that's only existed for the past several years because, phones have only been around / this big, right, for probably 5-6 years now. And then, so you have all these kind of takes on the problem that have solved it in various ways. But in my opinion, no one had really solved it the right way yet. Whereas, you put this thing on your phone to solve 1 or 2 problems, but at the same time, it creates 1 or 2 problems of its own. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. This is sort of your classic better mousetrap situation, Anyway, so it just kind of stuck in my head. And one night, it just kind of popped in my head, the idea for Ohsnap, the concept of using this kind of bistable spring mechanism, which is essentially within a slap bracelet, if you remember those from the 90s.
That's what I thought as I was using it. Yeah.
Yep. So the past 2 years, I've just been refining the idea as I worked my day job and got to where it is now. And here we are.
Yeah, I love it. That is awesome. And I love how you kind of started with what was out there. It's not like you reinvented the wheel. You saw something that was wildly popular. You heard that they had sold 1 million units or whatnot. And then you also looked at PopSocket and you said, there's got to be a better way to do it. How can it be done? And that's, that exactly. Show. And what's happened on your Kickstarter campaign? I mean, you're raising $20,000 a day or so pretty much every single day. So it shows you've kind of tapped into that need by innovating on something that is already out there and making it even better.
Yeah, exactly. There is absolutely a demand for a product like this out there, as we've seen. We've just seen a ton of organic growth on our Kickstarter page, which really took me by surprise. I know it's a good product, but it's also kind of a complicated product for the category, right? All these other products, PopSocket, Subchannel, whatever, they're very, very one-dimensional. They're very simple to understand. Where Ohsnap has a ton of hidden functionality. It's not super intuitive, so that's sort of what we've had to kind of work against. But also has like 10 features compared to like the 1 or 2 or 3 of the other ones, and so that's been a challenge. But yeah, as you said, we've definitely struck a chord, especially with people who have already had something like this already, right? Because that's a big part of our target market now is people that have had a phone grip and understand why they want the product, but then, realize the shortcomings of it and want something better. So,
and just for our listeners who are maybe not understand what a PopSocket is, been living under a rock or who knows, this is a back of the phone type of accessory. And what exactly does your Ohsnap do? List off those 10 features or so.
Yeah, a PopSocket is a little circle disc. It's an accordion style thing. You pull the circle and it expands and allows you to, get 2 fingers wrapped around the back of your phone securely, and then it works as essentially a stand. That's primarily what a PopSocket is. Ohsnap is the same in that it uses adhesive to stick on the back of most any phone or case. It's very, very thin. It's under 3 millimeters thin. A PopSocket's about 7, so it's much, much thinner, and it tapers on the ends or the edges around the perimeter, so there's nothing to get snagged on, right? Which is a huge design constraint I was trying to keep in mind the whole time. But essentially has a loop that you can sort of actuate and immediately use as a grip or a stand, but then that loop can close and lock, which gives you a ring. But unlike a lot of those metal rings, it's soft and it's really well sized, and so it's really secure and it feels really good to hold. And then so that gives you a really secure grip. And then that ring also rotates kind of all directions, 360 degrees. And so you can use it as a grip in portrait mode, but also in landscape mode if you're watching a video, which is where a lot of the current grips fail. They don't do that. So you can use it as a grip in portrait mode. But if you want to hold it in landscape, you have to hold it like you would a regular phone. It has magnets embedded into the device as well, so which allows you to stick your phone onto anything steel, like a refrigerator, a car, gym equipment, etc., which has been really, really popular. The entire device slides up and down about an inch in either direction, which gives you extended reach with one hand. Although the biggest complaint we hear about phone users, people using phones today, is that you really can't use them with one hand anymore. If you're an iPhone user, that top left back button is like impossible to reach for right-handed people. And so this allows you to kind of quickly just slide the phone down in your hand to get that. So if you have a coffee or a bag or something in your other hand and you really need to use your phone, you're kind of up a creek without something like this. So it has that functionality. The whole thing's removable really quickly so it could still be used wireless charging. Now, I admit it's not the most elegant solution in that regard, but we really wanted to keep that intact, which is why it's there.
Yeah, but it's an option that all the other devices don't have for wireless charging. So kudos to you for thinking of that anyway.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yep. And then I think the last most important thing, I skipped over a couple, but the last most important thing is it replaces that steel metal plate, that disc or that square disc on the back of your phone that works with your magnetic mount in your car, right? Those are very, very popular. And that was, again, so you get one of these other mounts, say like a left handle or whatever, but now you kind of choose a disc or a grip, and this works with those magnetic mounts that has embedded steel of its own, which is really great. And again, it won't block wireless charging because you can remove it, unlike a metal disc. So that's it at a pretty high level.
And you left out the one thing at the very end of your video. You used it to open a box. How did that work?
Yeah. And so it's interesting segue into one of our challenges is the base piece of this is what we call the frame. It's actually a piece of CNC'd aircraft aluminum. And if you know anything about manufacturing, the CNC process is a very expensive process. It doesn't scale very well, right? Where most processes you make a mold or whatever, and that's expensive. Now you can shoot out, parts at pennies a piece or whatever. Where CNC isn't. It takes the same amount of time to make each individual piece, whether you're making one or you're making a million. And so it's very costly as a process. However, the result is a very nice, quality piece of metal that matches the luxury feeling of your phone, most likely, which is why we did it. And so the side benefit of that is just a general rigidity, but also, when you remove it, you kind of have this, because the edge tapers, you have this little bit of an edge. It's not sharp enough to cut you, but it's definitely sharp enough to slice through an Amazon box, which has actually been a surprise feature. And I've actually heard a lot of people that have the demo units and stuff have actually turned
awesome.
out to really
love it.
So
Dale, it sounds like this thing has a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Just speaking to people who maybe will listen to this episode and say, well, how the heck can I invent something like this? How did you get all of these moving parts together in such a beautiful, elegant product like Ohsnap? What advice can you give to them? And how did you go about logistically getting this thing to where it is now, which is quite frankly pretty close to being able to ship already from what I've seen from the demo products we have, right?
Yep. Well, it is. And that's sort of where it's going to be hard to give universally applicable advice here, because I'm sort of lucky in the fact that, I've been working in a manufacturing business that I founded for over 10 years now. And so in the process, I've forged solid relationships with many suppliers and manufacturers overseas and domestically, which has allowed me to leverage a lot of favor with these people, to develop this product over a long period of time without having to, invest an enormous amount of money up front. Because Ohsnap actually, we had to invent a lot of the actual manufacturing processes to make this thing. A lot of products are you're working within manufacturing processes that exist already. You're making injection molded plastic or whatever, and this has all that, but it also has some things that you just aren't off the shelf processes like that. And so that was really quite challenging. But the advice really is for me, I guess, is really, I think the biggest thing that people crowdfunding campaigns miss 90% of the time, it seems, is people don't realize, people often massively underestimate the huge chasm of difference between making a prototype of a product and mass manufacturing a product at a good cost, at a good quality, in a good time frame. That is really, really, really hard. And so, but there's barriers at play here, right? Sometimes you just don't have, the money to start the manufacturing process before you raise funds for it, right? So there's this kind of natural dichotomy there that's really hard to navigate. And so in my particular case, I had this relationship I was able to leverage. And so I was able to kind of test and try and fail and fail and fail and fail until we found stuff that worked. Because I could show you early prototypes of this thing, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, it's insane how far the thing has come." Right, but it took a lot of trial and error to get to that point. And
send those to us. We'll include them in the show notes. I think our listeners would like to click on those and have a look at the process. That'd be awesome.
I can definitely do that. It'll shock you, but that's really where every certain situation is different. It just totally depends on the product you're making. But my advice is to really, before you go to crowdfunding, get as much of that thought through as you possibly can. And honestly, you could actually make the argument that as the inventor and the founder and, the person funding the business, I was able to control a lot of these elements myself, right? And I'm able to change the constraints of the equation as I'm going through things, which is something that when you're in a multi, a business with multiple, people and multiple groups and things like that, it's hard to do. But in this particular case, I was like, I wasn't going to be happy until I knew I could build something that was just like shockingly awesome and useful. And so I kept adding functionality to it when I probably shouldn't have. There's the old adage of minimum viable product, right? Like get the thing and just get the right thing out, get the first thing out. If you're not embarrassed by the first product you shipped and you ship too late, all that. Like, I get that. I totally get that. But in my particular case, I really wanted to get to that like second or third version on version 1. And so I made it really hard on myself because this thing is very difficult to manufacture at a good cost. But, again, I'm leveraging a lot of my experience there. I know that wasn't super useful to the listeners, but.
Oh, super useful. There are so many gems to unpack there. The first takeaway I have is by doing what you're doing, you're actually standing out from pretty much everything else on Kickstarter. I mean, you've been number 1 to number 5 in popularity on the entire platform of Kickstarter, pretty much your entire launch. And that's because of exactly what you just said. You've kind of created a version 2, version 3 before a version 1 even shipped. And your version 2, version 3 is so amazing and so great in so many ways. And I think that's important nowadays more than ever on Kickstarter, just because of people maybe look at a product and they think, oh, I can do something like that. And then they create something like that. And then it doesn't perform well. And they're like, well, why didn't that perform well? This one did well. Well, it's because that one beat you to the market. That one's already there. And you've gone a couple steps ahead. And I think that's making you stand apart. And then the other thing is that I love, yes, you put in a lot more money up front. Yes, you put in a lot more work. But by doing so, you've already created these raving fans. You've created a community of people who are very excited about Ohsnap. I mean, you have over 9,000 backers now, I believe. And these people are going to support you as you continue to build this company. And you're going to probably meet your shipping dates. You're going to actually deliver in a reasonable fashion where, I don't know, 95% of Kickstarter projects aren't able to do that. And that's a huge win for you long term, even though it might hurt you up front. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing to point out here is just kind of back to that minimum viable product thing. I think things like this kind of get infused into startup culture. And a lot of the time, I think it's done from sort of a pedestal position where they have people have the luxury of saying that. And when you're actually trying to do it yourself, like it's a different story. I mean, I'm making a product that has an enormous amount of competition, right? I mean, how many people in China and all over the world are sitting there trying to invent products like this? You know what I mean? Like it's, and so minimum viable product really is defined by, I think that the first part of that equation is what gets focused on way too often. Okay, minimum, right? But it's really what's viable. Like viability means to me that it's actually going to have a really good conversion rate, right? That it's going to sell well. It's going to have a great organic growth rate because of how compelling it is, right? And so I think everyone focuses on the minimum part of that equation, not the viable part. And I really encourage people to really like think about that. You know what I mean? You're going to make things a lot easier on yourself if you make a product that makes people go, wow, and that's really how I define viable.
And here's the thing, you're exactly right. And by defining viable and instead of just neglecting it like most people do, and they just get to the minimum side, your product is converting at a 20% rate, right? 1 in 5 people are buying this thing.
Yeah, it fluctuates. Yeah, depending on the audience, but absolutely. Yeah, it's been very high.
That's amazing. All right. Now I want to take a step back. you weren't planning to crowdfund Ohsnap originally. What made that change? Why did you decide to eventually launch on Kickstarter?
Yeah, we waffled back and forth on it dramatically, and part of the reason is because I've never done one before, and so I didn't realize how much sort of side benefit there is. There's like the direct benefit, right? You're ultimately trying to get sales, right? That's really why anyone does anything. And so there was, okay, I can get sales on Kickstarter, I can get sales on my own website and not pay the overhead of being on Kickstarter and all the other costs and the pressures that come with running a campaign, right? And so what tipped the scales, I believe, was honestly just a financial reason. With a product that is in this cost range, right? It's a pretty low cost range that could either sell, 1,000 a month or 100,000 a month. It was really hard to know how many to build in one shot, right? With the manufacturer, it's like if I build 5,000, right, and they sell it the first day, I mean, these products have a lead time, right? So I'm going to be without inventory for weeks and weeks, and that's going to suck. And so, but if I put on the flip side, if I go build 100,000, right, and we do sell 1,000 a week or a month or whatever, then I have all this inventory and I'm screwed. And so it was really hard to kind of know how much to build or what forecast to build to. So Kickstarter is a fantastic way of building a forecast, because what you get with Kickstarter, right, is you get the end result, which is great, but then you also get all these metrics with it, like how many backers per day, how much revenue or funding dollars per day, what your conversion rate is per audience, all these things, which then you can use to back into an actual sales forecast, which then you can use your supplier to build product on a forecast, which if you're in a manufacturing business, that's absolutely what you want to be able to do. Forecasting is everything. And so that was a big reason why. And then there's the other reason where Kickstarter just has this natural sort of, platform charisma where it attracts, just really interesting. You have all these people out there trolling Kickstarter for interesting projects, and there's all these opportunities that arise from, being successful on Kickstarter versus being in your own little world. And so that's awesome. A big part of it as well.
I can't even add anything to that answer. So very, very powerful. I love the idea of forecasting on Kickstarter. We've talked about that in prior episodes, but not to the level that you have just explained, where it just really helps you from a manufacturing standpoint. Just so you don't lose your shorts, right? I mean, you can make a really big decision and be stuck with inventory for years if you got it wrong, and maybe get too gung-ho on a product that maybe doesn't resonate with the market as well as it should, and not have the money to make the necessary pivots for what they want. And Kickstarter people will tell you, look, we want this, or we don't want this, or you've probably learned a little bit about that as well as you've gone through this process.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is really why I did the survey. I really wanted to learn, and that's where for me, coming from a business, right, where we're building really, really expensive, complicated, essentially mobile phones. What we build at Small HQ is essentially an iPhone without a modem. Right, we have to have a really high resolution screen, a really high end video processing, all this kind of stuff, and it's expensive to make, and the lead times are really long. And so we've been through several inventory crises at Small HD, and so I've lived that nightmare multiple times over, and so I'm really sensitive to it. But forecasting in a business where you have physical inventory is so important. And Kickstarter gives you sort of a head start on that, which is really useful.
Yeah, I love that. Now, you talked about a survey, and I want to kind of pivot into that right now. We polled everybody in our company and got a little feedback as to why they believe you've got such a winner here in Ohsnap. And here's some of their unfiltered commentary, and maybe it'll be useful for you to hear and for the listeners at Funded Today to kind of learn a little bit about why they feel like things are good. And then we'll get into this survey, which I really want to spend a second or two to talk about as well. So this is just their comments and their feedback. I just think Dale has nailed it on doing things right. He does everything right. He's got a cool product that everyone can use. His pricing is very fair. His video and his page are amazing. Watch them, by the way. They are really, it's about 4 minutes long, so it's a little longer than we would normally recommend, but it keeps you engaged the entire time. It's a great video from start to finish. There's humor, there's sarcasm, there's comparing different products that are out there with his product. You've done an amazing job there. And I think that stems from your Doritos commercials, which I didn't until I had learned that about you. And then I went back and watched those commercials. I was like, oh, okay, that's where all this is coming from. You've got that really cool, fun take that's really popular nowadays too. So samples, your samples on hand, and you're quick to communicate. How many different journalists and press have we lined up that you've been able to send them overnight shipping to these products, and suddenly an article's live the next day, right? That's a huge win that's been able to get you a lot of press that a lot of people who don't have that preparation and don't have those products are unable to do, because a lot of journalists want to make sure it's legit what you're selling and that it's going to be as good as the video says it is. And your product lives up to that. So that's huge. So you're not held up by any opportunities. You're likable. Your updates are witty, and often you listen to your audience. You're just a very good proactive guy. We're getting lots of comments on our ads that people want the creator to be shipped with the product. They want Dale with the product. And now let's get into the survey. Shannon wrote this. I know she's been working with you quite a bit. She said, one thing we can learn here, about a week into the campaign, we had a slower day, and Dale immediately jumped to action. He is really following both the comments on ads as well as the questions on his page. He sent a survey to his backers that was awesome. And then since Shannon was one of the backers, she received the survey. And I just want to read it because it's not too long. And anybody who wants to take a look at it, you could have a look too, ohsnap.com/survey. Here's what Dell says. You pledged for an Ohsnap on Kickstarter. Congratulations, you made a great choice. However, something has been on my mind. I spent nearly 3 years meticulously designing this product that has as few compromises as possible in order to deliver a product that would be extremely difficult to say no to. And while Kickstarter thus far has been a massive success, on average, only about 1 in 5 people that watch the video are pledging. I'm not complaining, as this is a great statistic, but I have a hunch there is still unnecessary friction present. So, out of sheer curiosity, I have 2 simple questions I want to ask you. For those of you who did, in fact, see the value here of Ohsnap. And the question was, what was your biggest question or concern you overcame to purchase Ohsnap? And then you have A through I of different choices. And then your second question, anything you would like to add regarding questions or concerns you had about Ohsnap that weren't answered on the campaign page, and it's just a free response. I love that. What made you come up with that idea, and how effective has that been for you as you've received that feedback from your backers and other people?
Yeah, so surveys are a double-edged sword a lot of the time. You have to be really careful with them because, in my experience, I've done several of these over the years for various reasons, and the questions and how you ask them is just so enormously important. I've seen surveys just as often just lead you down the wrong path, right? Because data, you get it, and now all of a sudden you have this data, and you're like, oh, well, data says this, got to act on it, right? But maybe you just are asking the wrong questions, or you're asking the wrong way. And again, like I wrote in the preface there, like I still have a hard time understanding why when people see this, why they're saying no, right? And just marketing 101, right? You just want to remove as much friction from the process as possible, and so. I really and I've also learned that people have extremely short attention spans, right? And I've also learned I'm a naturally very optimistic person. And sort of my last 10 years of my career have beaten into me this sort of more pessimism, but really I think just more realism overall. That people are just being inundated with information and marketing and product offerings. And so you really, really, really have to cut through a lot of that with simplicity and clarity. Instead of having this long drawn out survey that could be interpreted 1,000 different ways, I really just want to know the one thing. What was the one thing that got stuck in your head as something you had to overcome in order to press the buy button, right? And I think that's something that as Kickstarter people are so much more responsive to things like this than regular customers too, right? So the response we got was enormous. I think at the time when I sent it, we had about 4,000 backers, and I think I got over 2,500 survey responses, which is a huge engagement rate for something like this.
Just give everybody a feel for things. When you normally send out an email, you might get a 10% open rate and then maybe a 15% click-through rate on something like that. But Dale had not only more than a 60% click-through rate, he had a 60% finish the survey rate. So huge.
Yeah, exactly. So huge numbers. And so that's really good. It means people are excited about the product. And secondly, I like having open sort of response questions because whether they actually answer the question or not isn't important. What you're going to get is what's on their mind, right? And I like getting the unfiltered response of just what's on their mind when they're thinking about, the subject matter, which is Ohsnap in this case, right? I just wanted to know, what they're thinking. Oh my gosh, it's a treasure trove. It just gives you such a different perspective reading through these things. It's tedious because you have to go through and read these one by one. There's no way to build a report, right? So you can't just get a big cross section in one glance. You have to read through them one by one. But it's so useful.
Did you learn anything in their own words when you were hearing what they were writing? Did you learn anything like, oh wow, that's how they describe that particular feature, or that's the problem they're saying, and use their own words to kind of mimic the way they talk on your campaign page or how you go about marketing?
I absolutely will. I haven't done that yet because I was really focusing on the most actionable stuff at first, which is really that key friction point, right? I gave them 7 different options of what gave you pause in the purchasing decision, right? And it was surprisingly, almost annoyingly, it was really evenly split between those 7 or 8 things. And which is, for this kind of thing is kind of frustrating because you're hoping it was one thing you could fix, but of course it's not. So you just kind of have to work through it and constantly be refining your message, but yeah, it was massively useful.
Love it. Love it. Now, kind of going along those same lines, not only did the survey impress me, but just the way your backers are reacting to this product. They're loving Ohsnap, right? But they're also loving you as a creator. You've taken a really unique approach to the way you update and communicate with your backers. What's your thought process there, and how do you go about doing that? The only person I can think of who was similar in all my years of doing this might have been Catherine Krug of Betterback. She always had the most amazing updates. I'd put you on the same level of how she went about doing her updates. What's your thought process? How do you go about determining what you want to say to your backers, and how do you get that engagement when these people haven't even met you before?
Yeah, what the funny thing is the updates, I don't even put that much energy into them. I really think there's 2 principles here that I go by, which is, one, I'm really using this as an opportunity, this whole experience, just to sort of be myself. And I'm not trying to put up any sort of barriers or front or, any perspective spin or anything on myself. I'm just saying, this is who I am. This is my story. This is what I've built. This is why you should buy it. And I'm not really trying to spin that any other way. And then the second thing is that, I think this is where so many people go wrong. And this is just me reacting as a consumer, right? Like I just, as being someone who gets a lot of emails from marketing companies and product companies, it's like, I want to add value, right? Is in every communication, right? And that, which is where I came up with the pro tip idea, right? Instead of just saying, hey guys, instead of toot my own horn in every update, ooh, we surpassed this milestone, yeah, everyone be excited. Like, why should they be really excited about that? If anything, they should be nervous about that because it's been so successful, they might be worried that, it's going to overwhelm the supply chain or something, right?
I love that.
And so I said, okay, well, I want to give them a reason to read these things that benefits them. And that's where the pro tip came from. And so it doesn't take me that long to do them. There's so many different ways. I mean, I've been using Ohsnap now myself for quite a long time. And so I've learned all these little tricks, and most people that I've given Ohsnap to don't even know these things. And so it hasn't really been that difficult. I think just we get caught up so much as entrepreneurs, the perception of who we are and how it comes across. And I think the best advice for anybody is just be authentic, because authenticity is what people are craving right now. There's so much out there. Like 90% of what you read out there is just wildly inauthentic. And that's why if you're into like social media advertising or anything, that's why everyone's saying now to make your ad video kind of like homemade style, because if people see it comes across like too glossy or obviously a marketing video, they're going to skip right by, because it's just everyone's defenses are just on high alert right now. And so really just authenticity is actually one of the easiest things to do.
That's what we teach on one of our episodes. The entire episode we have on paid media, and Thomas could speak to this, is all about that. So I love that.
You know what I love about that, Dale? And you've shared 2 things, and maybe you've put these together or not, but I'm just going to put it together for the listeners. You've talked about providing value for the people you're building the product for, right? For the customers. And then you also talk about being authentic, right? I think you can be authentic when you are actually striving to provide value, to do something that's good, right? And that's where, when you're not doing that, when you're cutting corners, you can't be authentic, right? Because you don't want people to discover you. But where you put your heart and soul into it and you're really creating something, you can be authentic, right? You can be yourself. But if somebody just goes and grabs something off of Alibaba and then rebrands it, it's going to be very hard to do that. So, but I love what you're saying.
That's a great point. I've backed, you can even just see on my profile on Kickstarter, I've backed 45 campaigns. I've probably gotten half of those, right? And so, you see so many of these products where they're clearly some Chinese, company who's making a product that just is trying to portray sort of an American style brand or whatever. And they have someone doing a voiceover on the video or whatever, right? And it's very clearly just what's going on here. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really tell. I think people are just kind of sick of that kind of thing.
Yeah. I love the way your videos integrated you with the product in a way that is just fun and engaging, but also I've showed your video probably to like 50 people now. which I never do. I mean, I own Funded Today, so I'm usually not doing that. But your video is such a good example of every single thing we want to see. And I'm trying to get more people to create videos like that have that authenticity, that associate an amazing creator like yourself with an amazing product. And the results just speak for themselves. I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. Probably because it's harder, probably because it takes more time, probably because it takes more money, but it's worth it, right? Is it worth it in the end?
In the context of Kickstarter in particular, I think the video is the single point of emphasis that you should place on it. I mean, I think you should spend more effort on that than anything else by multiple orders of magnitude. I think 80% of your energy should be spent on the video, because that's just the medium that we use today, and it's what everyone watches, and it's just such an opportunity. And I think we've seen so many times that and these brands, these examples get overused, but Dollar Shave Club or Squatty Potty or whatever, like, you make the right video and you're just going to get this enormous exponential effect on the outcome. And it's free at that point. You know what I mean? And so really,
there's a trust element too. I mean, there's a trust element. People trust you suddenly, where as before they could be like, well, is this guy going to deliver? Is he going to ship? Is he going to be like other Kickstarter projects that take a year longer to go? Like, but they watch the video with you and suddenly all those barriers are broken down, and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll back this product.
Yeah. And the trick is making a good video is very difficult. I mean, I've been doing it I haven't done it in a long time. This was actually a real challenge for me because, all the Doritos ads and the video production company I used to be a part of, whatever, I had a team of people there who actually were much better at me than I am. I was more of the producer role in those experiences, right? So I had to do this one all myself. I had to write it. I had to direct it. I had to actually be in it. And it was it was a huge challenge for me, but personally. But
did you get their help or feedback at all and get some ideas from them on how they did it? Because I mean, you won the Doritos Super Bowl contest twice. I don't think anybody can have that claim.
Yeah, and I was part of the core team for those commercials, and I was part of the ideation and all that stuff. But no, I did not. I did the scripting, everything entirely by myself. And I literally, I think this was probably my 20th or 30th, idea that I ended up going with, and it ended up because I kept coming up with these like very cute, very over the top ideas. Then I just said one day, I was like, you know what? I just need to be clear. I think clarity is going to be the most important thing here. I want to make it fun throughout the way, right? So I'm going to lace that in, but I really just want to tell the story of the product, and that's when I went with this approach.
Yeah, you did it perfectly. I don't even know if there's a better way to do a video than the way you've done it. And I'm not just throwing that high praise on you for the heck of it. I really do believe that. So well done.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a 40% finish stat on this, right? So everyone that watches the video, 40% finish it, which is really, really good. So,
and like I said, this is a 4-minute long video, 4 minutes long too. So with an attention span economy that's about 15 seconds nowadays.
Yeah.
So very impressive.
I was really surprised to see that. Yeah.
All right, Dale, to kind of wrap up the episode, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's pop sockets. $168.8 million in revenue in 2018. The reason I know that is because they were number 2 on the Inc. 5000 for fastest growing privately held companies in 2018.
Yep.
When they launched their Kickstarter, January 2012, they raised roughly $19,000, exactly $18,591 United States dollars. You're doing $20,000 a day. Does that say anything about what you've created here? And how do you plan to take them on? What's your goal here?
Yeah, I mean, pop sockets, first of all, I think they're going to do a lot more in 2019. I don't know if we're going to ever see that number because, like you said, they are private. But 186 million 2018. I think they'll probably do 300 or something this year, right? So they're just on this rampant pace, and they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. I see them in every store I go to now, it seems. And so they've essentially invented and popularized the category, right? And the reason they only did what they did in 2012 is because in 2012 this problem was just surfacing, and they were really, really early on the scene of the solution. And he actually kind of got lucky because he was inventing a product to solve the headphone cord problem, not the grip stand problem. Just those were side benefits that ultimately ended up pivoting into very successfully. I don't think the Kickstarter campaign is really indicative of the potential, right? But in that particular case. So as it pertains to us, though, we are just now riding this wave of popularity for the category, and I honestly think that it's not going to be as easy as it might seem, because of the success of the Kickstarter campaign, because they have such brand recognition now, and they have, they're really good about litigating all these knockoffs and keeping in the, Amazon clear and all that kind of stuff. And so they have this such momentum. The analogy I've been using, though, hopefully is the way this turns out, is PopSockets is sort of the MySpace. At one point in 2005 or something, MySpace accounted for 5% of all web traffic, which is a staggering number if you think about it. And then, obviously now they're nothing. And then Facebook came along because of MySpace and Friendster sort of invented the category, invented social media, or at least in that way. Facebook came along with a better, more refined product and did it the right way. And here we are, right? So I'm really hoping that that's how it works out for us, that PopSockets invented the category. They came with a design that worked well for what it was. But Ohsnap is going to come in here with a superior design, with a well-run, operationally sound business that can hopefully scale really quickly and take advantage of sort of the market that they've created with a much better product. Because honestly, what really surprises me about them is the fact that they haven't taken the product and tried to improve the core IP of the product at all. It's still the same mechanism. It's really bulky. And I just, I'm just really surprised that they haven't tried to improve it. So, but we'll see. We will see.
It's interesting because I was just looking up PopSockets. It appears at the beginning of 2019, they were looking at doing an IPO. And I'm kind of thinking, well, what other products are they rolling out with, right? And you make a great point,
it's
right?
A risky,
it's 50-50 whether the person who makes the category will be the dominant player, right? And so if you come with a superior product, and frankly, and I don't want to speak negatively about PopSockets. I know Zach has one, other people have one. I actually didn't really like it. I didn't like how it felt. I didn't like how it was more bulky. And so I actually just took it off. Kind of actually messed up my phone case when I took it off, but it still works. But anyways, so I think there totally is a market, and what you guys are doing is awesome.
Yep. And so I think an IPO for that company is based on what we've seen from them, which is PopSockets, the minis, the wallet, which are just not really innovative. They're just the same thing. And then this new thing, the koozie thing, which apparently they stole from one of their influencers, which is crazy. It just speaks to me that they don't really understand who they are or what they want to be yet. And if I was an investor, I would be like, okay, well, what's your actual plan here? I'm sure they have stuff in the works, but what's your DNA? What's your mission? What are you actually trying to do long term? Because you know what, the smartphone form factor is a moving target. And it's something that's going to change here in the next 5 years, probably pretty dramatically, with either folding phones or augmented reality or something, right? So there's a limited window of opportunity for this specific physicality that we're all kind of focusing on right now, right? So it's what is your business kind of long term? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure if they do either, but we will see.
Yeah, I love that. I like your forward way of thinking. It comes across in your Ohsnap, competitor to PopSocket, and then it comes across in what you're going to create in the future too. I think that's a huge advantage of your own intellectual property, I guess you could say, that you bring to the table as you continue to bring this new business to life. So good on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have probably more than a dozen products I'm currently working on right now to kind of flesh out the Ohsnap ecosystem as well. So it's going to be a fun ride.
We're going to have you back again. It's been amazing having you. I got to ask the question, put you on the spot a little bit, but what do you think about working with Funded Today so far? I got to kind of do the survey. How's it been? What can we do better?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to be perfectly transparent. So I think that's best for everybody. When I first started, I was a little lukewarm about it because I didn't really know what to expect. Again, never had done a Kickstarter. I just sort of there was the onboarding process, right? And it all felt very automated. And I was like, I just the stuff was going on in the background and I couldn't see it. So I was like, what's going on? Is anyone doing anything? But then once we got going a little bit, everyone just kind of popped in and the whole thing kind of came to life. You could see the gears start spinning. And it's been very, very, very fun. And I've loved working with you guys. And I've actually, I think you guys using me as a reference because I've been talking to other people about you who are considering signing Funded Today, and my review has always been very positive. But the thing that I've been telling people is, you know what, Funded Today isn't magic, right? Think about them like an investor in a business. They want to apply their formula to a working concept. If your concept is flawed inherently, they're not going to magically make it massively successful. And that's I think one of the biggest challenges in general with crowdfunding and entrepreneurship in general, right? But if you have a great product, they will absolutely like propel you way beyond what you can do yourself. If I had any point of feedback for you, it would be just maybe a little bit more transparency on the front end, but just to make people pull people into the process a little bit more.
Yeah.
I guess if they want that, right? And I'm this kind of person where I'm just kind of OCD and I want to see everything, what's going on, and at least in the beginning. But overall, it's been fantastic.
How can we keep our systems and processes in place so that we can be efficient like that? And then add that transparency and personal element. If you could give us like just one or two takeaways, what would you think would be best to do that?
Yeah, I don't honestly have a really strong idea of that. I think because what happens is you sign on, right, and then you get like you send out all like the onboarding documentation explaining who's going to do what, when, and how, and all that kind of stuff, right? Then you form the Skype group thing where you can kind of start talking to everybody and everything. If you kind of look to the very beginning of the history, right, of our group chat or whatever, you'll see me going in there going, is anybody there? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? And I just think if there was some sort of like daily update or something that went out and said, this is what's happening, right? Or something like that, just to make people feel like, what they've invested in, right? Because, there's an upfront payment and all that kind of stuff, right? And you want to know that that's doing something, right? And it's really more of a perception thing than it is anything else.
It's kind of what you have done with your product in your video, where even though you can't be there with people, because you've put yourself out there, it feels like you're right there with people and they can trust you along the way. I love that.
Absolutely.
That's good. All right. Well, Dale, this was amazing. I got quite a bit of takeaways myself from it. It was very helpful. We're going to have you back again when you invent those next 10 to 12 products that you have down the road. And maybe once you're the Inc. 5000 number one fastest growing company in 2021 or something. So
that's the goal.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Funded Today Nation. Now it is time for our segment of the podcast that we really love. This is the products of the week. Of course, I'm going to have to pick two. I'm going to give Ohsnap my product of the week. They've got just over a week and a half left or so on that. Check it out. Ohsnap, Kickstarter, very easy to find. That's OH_SNAP Snap. Dale's awesome. You're going to want this product. If you have any sort of phone, this is the best phone case for it. Dale's going to pitch it here in a second as well for the product of the week. So I'll leave him some time for that. That's my first one. The second one is Ettitude. This is bamboo bedding. And I've been trying it out for the last little bit just to make sure I loved it, because I've always been a Egyptian cotton type guy. And wow, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back. Bamboo is amazing to sleep on. If you want the best sleep of your life, you've got to try Ettitude. How is it different from other sheets? One, comfort. It's feathery soft. Sometimes I feel like I'm in cotton candy without the stickiness. I don't know how to describe it. It's just such an amazing feeling. You don't want to get out of bed. Here's some customers that have kind of put it in their words that can maybe do it better than me. It feels like you're being cocooned by a zillion kittens. They make your cotton sheets feel like sandpaper. And an editor at Goop said she and her boyfriend haven't needed melatonin since their first sleep on Ettitude sheets. My wife's pregnant right now. She's been telling me she's having the best sleep of her life every single night on these. Cooling. I get really hot when I'm sleeping. I think most guys are that way. And maybe the lady likes to wear a little bit more clothes or something. With these sheets, it is absolutely amazing. This is organic bamboo lyocell, and it's extremely breathable. It regulates your temperature to improve your quality of sleep. This is no exaggeration. Throughout this time that I've been testing, I have not sweated at all when I'm sleeping. So I absolutely love it. And then it's antimicrobial. Many customers even claim their skin's appearance has improved after switching to Ettitude sheets, and they're not changing their sheets every week either. So bamboo just has an antimicrobial nature to it. And then here's what I like the most. Everybody's going green. Ettitude's doing it in the bedding space. It's better for the environment. Organic bamboo lyocell will recycle about 90% of the water that they use. So it's sustainable, and cotton uses a ton of pesticides and waste and can even be harmful to the environment, which I didn't really know until I got exploring Ettitude. So check it out. Ettitude Bedding, ETTITUDE.com. I think you're going to love it. Let them know that Zach Smith of Funded Today sent you there, and I'm sure they will hook you up. They ran a Kickstarter not too long ago, did pretty well, and I really love bamboo sheets. So Ettitude.com. Thomas, what do you got for us?
My product of the week is called Bundle, BUNDL. It's a heated sleeping bag, but it has a whole bunch of new features as well as a price tag that actually makes it affordable. There's some other popular brands out there that have a heated sleeping bag, and you might be spending $500, $600. So with a bundle on Kickstarter right now, it's $350. And basically, it allows you to have your sleeping bag. And then if it's colder, you can turn on the battery. It's a portable battery that can actually charge up to 4 nights of energy and warmth. And it works with your smartphone. And even if you don't want to bring your smartphone on a camping trip, you can actually still just use it with a button right there. And there's 3 sections, and you can change the heat. So if you camp, especially if it's cold, check out Bundle. It's an awesome sleeping bag.
Dale, give us the pitch on Ohsnap.
So you guys really like sleeping apparently, because man, it's all sleeping stuff. So Ohsnap is what we've been saying is Ohsnap is the phone grip that doesn't suck, right? It's the one-fingered, comfortable phone accessory that you'll actually love to use. We really think that if you're using a phone, and which is literally everybody, and then you should put a Ohsnap on it, because it literally has no compromises. The only compromise is the $19 you'll have to spend to buy it, and the 3 millimeters of thickness on your phone. But other than that, it just provides so much value that literally we've given hundreds of these things away, and I haven't run into anybody that has like decided to take it off their phone because they didn't like it for one reason or another, right? We've had a couple issues with quality because these are little pre-production units and everything, but other than that, everyone has just fell in love with it. And now what we say is, people get Ohsnap addicted, and now if you don't have one on your phone, then you literally just are super uncomfortable, and you find everything, you do everything you can to get it back. And so I really think that Ohsnap is game changing, and I'd love for you to try it.
Love it. And if you're listening to this episode and you're an influencer, press, journalist, and you want to try one out, Dale does have a lot of these products available, and we would love for you to try them out and then review the product, because like Dale said, I think you'll find that this is the only thing you need to put on the back of your phone. Once you get it, it's the phone accessory that doesn't suck. So check it out. We love it. Dale, I can see why you are called the chosen one at Kickstarter, not just because of Dale Backus. Just, you got a lot of insight. You got a lot of wisdom. It's been awesome having you on the show. Thanks again for coming. We appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Dale.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zach.
Funded Today Nation, what did you like about this episode? What did you think about Dale and his invention? We want to hear about it. What about his story? And who do you want as our next guest? Is there somebody out there that you'd like to hear from? Let us know. We'd love to get him on the show. And finally, what's been your favorite episode so far, and why? The more we hear from you, the more we're able to create content that's going to help you bring your next big idea to life. Please email us, support@funded.today, and leave us a comment on our website, fundedtoday.com/podcast, or give us a review on iTunes. We've got over 100 now positive 5-star reviews, so they really help us continue. We read every single one of them, and they help us figure out what we want to do to create more great episodes for you. Next time, we're going to talk about what to do when things go wrong on your crowdfunding campaign. And not only that, we're going to talk about what you can do to turn around a bad project, or even a project that gets suspended, into a remarkable success story. You're not going to want to miss it. So tune in next time. And remember, don't wait until tomorrow. Get funded today.
Funded Today is the worldwide leader in rewards-based crowdfunding on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Combined, they have raised over $200 million and counting for thousands of new ideas and inventions worldwide. If you've got an idea for a new product or invention, visit fundedtoday.com to speak with one of their experts.